James and Maria begged for my home, then showed up with suitcases when I refused. AITA, my older brother James, has always been the family's golden child. He's super charismatic, ambitious, and charming. People saw him as everything I wasn't. Honestly, I have been reminded of that for as long as I can remember. Our parents adored him, had his back, and often brushed off my efforts like they didn't matter. Whatever James needed help with, I was always there. If he wanted something, I gave it to him without a second thought, thinking that's what family is all about. Things really changed once James met Maria. She was beautiful, and she had a way of making people adore her. But there was that added quality to her. She knew how to manipulate. She could turn situations so quickly that it would put me in a dilemma of doubting myself. In public, she acted like the perfect wife and mother behind closed doors. However, Maria and I did not get along. She would always manage to turn it around on me, and I would end up looking like the one who had done wrong. And you know what? My family always took her side. "David, Maria's just trying to help you," my mom would say, brushing off my concern. "Maria's just looking out for the family," Dad would say, as if it was something I was supposed to accept. Yeah, I totally believed it in the beginning. But after some time, I started to realize what Maria was like. It wasn't about her caring for the family. It was all about her using everyone else to get what she wanted. Man, it was ages of always coming in second to James and Maria. So when James got married, our folks fronted the down payment for their house. Then finally, after busting my butt for years, I bought a little pad of my own and barely even got a good job from them. Let alone any help, but I pushed it aside, telling myself I didn't need their approval. And then the day that changed everything arrived. One night, my dad called and said he wanted to talk. I assumed it was his usual catch-up call, so I found nothing unusual in going over. But as soon as I sat down, my parents looked at each other, and I knew something was off. "David," my dad began, in that tone he reserved for when he wanted something from me. "James and Maria are having a rough time. They've outgrown their place with the kids and need more room." I nodded slowly, clueless about what he was getting at, okay? "Yeah," he said, "your place would be perfect for them. Just till they can strike a larger spot, you know? You're alone. You're alone. You don't need all that space, do you?" At first, I thought they were messing with me. "Wait, you want me to... what? Leave my place?" "It's only for a little while," Mom said, with that optimistic look she always wore when she needed me to do something. "You could crash with us. It wouldn't be forever until James and Maria regained their feet." I couldn't believe what was coming out of her mouth. I'd worked so hard, tirelessly, for this place. It was mine, my haven, and they just wanted me to hand it over like it was nothing. "No way," I said, kind of shocking myself too. "I'm sorry, but I'm not giving up my place." My dad's face fell completely with disappointment. "You're being selfish, David. Come on, think of the kids. They need the space. You're their uncle, for crying out loud." When I said no, everything flipped upside down. My parents started calling me selfish and cold for not wanting to help out. James started playing his kids against me, reminding me how squished they were in their apartment. Maria got in, dropping hints that I was jealous of their life. "You know, you've kinda always been like... a little..." "Shut off, David," she said one day, sounding all pitying. "Honestly, this is more about you than helping us." Her words hit harder than I thought they would. No matter how hard I tried to brush it off, there was always that part of me that felt odd and didn't fit into the perfect picture of our family. But this time, I stood my ground. I wouldn't let them make me feel guilty about keeping my home. And it wasn't getting any easier the next few weeks. Maria would call and spin tales of woe about how hard this small apartment was on her kids. James would stop by unannounced, always pleasant. But somehow, the conversation would revolve around his and his family's need for space. My parents kept hammering away at the same lines: family loyalty and sacrifice. So, one evening, my dad came by himself and seemed to be trying a new tack. "David," he began gently, "I don't see why you make things so difficult. It is only a house. Think of all the joy it would give your nieces and nephews." I clenched my fists, and this anger boiled over in me. "Seriously, Dad, why does it have to be my house? Can't you or Mom help them find something bigger?" He sighed, frustrated. "Because that's what family does. They make sacrifices for each other." Man, that word, sacrifice, hit me like a knife in the gut. I've spent my whole life giving up stuff for others, especially for James. But come on, where's the sacrifice from anyone else? When have they ever thought about what I needed first? I said, finally feeling all those years of resentment just let loose. Not happening this time. A week later, my parents, James, Maria, and the kids showed up at my door with suitcases and boxes. James was wearing his obnoxious, smug grin, and Maria was wearing her usual fake, saintly look. I went out and closed the door behind me, my heart hammering. "What you doing?" I asked, though I already knew. "We're moving in," James said casually. "We figured it'd be easier this way. You can spend time with Mom and Dad while we settle here." I couldn't believe the nerve. "No way this is happening," I said, all shaky. "Like, you're not crashing here. This is my place." Maria touched my arm, looking all sympathetic but condescending. "David, come on, don't be a pain. Think about the kids. They totally deserve a nicer place to grow up." I turned to look at my parents, hoping to find some hint of backing, but they stood there, arms folded, face stony. Their silence was a vote of confidence for James and Maria. "Nah," I said with conviction, realizing I had a power I didn't even know I had. "Get off my land, all of you." They both stood there. James folded his arms and looked down at me. "You're not seeing things clearly, David. You don't really need all this space. Besides, we're family." There it was again. That word, family, tossed around like a weapon. "If family means taking everything from me, then maybe I don't need it," I replied. My dad took a step closer, his voice all low and scary. "You're really messing up, David. This is something you'll regret." I said nothing else, so I turned around and went inside. My hands were shaking while I called the police. From all the yelling going on outside, it was hard to hear myself. When the cops finally arrived, they made my family leave. However, the damage had already been done. You could feel the shame in my parents as they walked away, with my mom hissing that I'd destroyed the family. And then, many of my family would message me. Some were in my corner, but many tore into me, saying I overreacted too much. "Do it for James." "Do it for James," they kept saying. "It's only a house." I jumped on Reddit to vent and share what was happening. The response was overwhelming in support, with people chiming in about similar situations they were in. A few even told me to ditch my family altogether. It was unexpected how much the kindness of strangers helped me feel less isolated in my choice. A couple of days later, he came back alone. He knocked softly as if he were ashamed. "David, can we talk?" I let him in, but I was still on high alert. He plopped down, rubbing his hands together, looking super tired. Look, things got out of hand. Maria and I thought we could fix things with more space. I was waiting, expecting at least he would say sorry or admit they did something wrong. But instead, he looked at me and I saw the venom in his eyes. You'll regret this. One day, when you're old and lonely, you'll wish you had family. His words stung, striking a nerve I'd tried to ignore. A part of me feared he was right. Maybe, I said quietly, but at least I'll know I didn't let anyone walk all over me. Not anymore. So after that, James and Maria crashed at my parents' place. But you could tell it was getting a little much for them with the whole crew around. I started going out more with friends who just got me. You know, the ones who didn't treat me like some second option or a way to get somewhere. So, one evening, I was chilling at home when I threw up one last update on Reddit, talking about how I finally found some peace. Realized family doesn't have to mean the people who share my blood or the ones who always want me bending over backward to keep them happy. It can be any person who truly gets me and respects my boundaries, someone who genuinely cares about my well-being. And in that second, I knew I wasn't alone. I felt my peace, and man, that was enough. But you know, just as I was about to press the post button, that annoying little voice in my head wouldn't shut up. Like, what if I messed up? What if I'm totally burning bridges that I can never repair? I lay awake that night in bed staring up at the ceiling, but it didn't go away. It just lingered. All I could see was my parents, disappointed and ashamed. The expression on their faces when I had rejected them still haunted me. Could I really live with myself if I had lost them forever? Would they ever forgive me? The buzzing of my phone on the nightstand snapped me out of my daydream. I reached for it, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw who it was. James, I hesitated for a second, you know. After all that happened, did I really want to hear his voice? But my curiosity got the best of me, and I picked up the phone. David. His voice was softer than I expected, almost tentative. I know things got messed up. I've been thinking about everything. You were right. I shouldn't have pushed you like that. We've been living in chaos, and maybe I got lost in all of it. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Was this some joke? Was he trying to mess with me again? But as he went on speaking, something in his voice told me maybe he was telling the truth. Maria and I. We've been fighting a lot, he admitted. I don't know if we're gonna make it. The kids are suffering, and to be honest, so am I. I have no idea what's gonna happen next. I just wanted to tell you that I'm very sorry for everything, for laying that on you. I realize now that you've been there for me when no one else was. I gulped at how heavy his words were. Anger that I had harbored for months started easing away, and in its place came something totally unexpected. Empathy. No matter how much pain he'd caused, he was still my brother. And even through all that has happened, I still loved him. James, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I don't know if I can forgive you now. You crossed a line, but I hear you, and thank you for saying this. I think we both need time. He was silent for a few moments before he spoke again, and you could sense more than a hint of relief in his voice. Yeah, I understand. But David, I really want to make it right. I don't want to lose you. I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race. It would be challenging, but in my mind, this could be the start of something new for us. Not perfect without its bumps, but genuinely honest. Maybe we could try again, I ventured, my voice trailing helplessly. But it's gonna take some time, for both of us. He was okay with that, and the conversation was over. I put my phone away, and the weight of the night slowly lifted off my shoulders. Over the next few weeks, things between us started to shift. Little by little, James and I began to open up more and share our frustrations and regrets. He stopped expecting me to give up my place, and I didn't feel like I had to throw away my happiness for him. It was awkward and clumsy, but at least it was progress. One day, Maria messaged me. She asked if we could hang out. I had no idea what would happen, but I said yes. When we finally met at a coffee shop, I noticed she seemed different too. Gone was that sweet, manipulative act she used to put on. Instead, she looked vulnerable, worn out by the same stuff that made her act the way she did. "I know I've hurt you," she said in a trembly voice. At that time, I thought what I did was best for everyone concerned, but now I realize it only worsened things. "I am indeed very sorry, David." It was hard to accept her apology, but I just nodded. "I don't know if I trust you yet, though I really appreciate you saying this." We talked a little more, and I didn't feel things were all right. Still, we had a chance to be family again and be in a situation where we would respect each other's boundaries. Things between us started to calm down as the months went by. James and Maria were doing their thing, trying to work out their relationship. At the same time, I just kept finding my peace in being home alone. We were figuring out how to live life our way without all that old drama of manipulation or guilt weighing us down. But by the end of that year, I couldn't help but feel that this new vibe between us was still shaky. We were making baby steps, but there was so much left unsaid. Things with me and James had gotten a little better, but I still wondered if I could trust him again. So, one evening, as I was finishing work, my mobile phone beeped, signaling a text message from James. "Hey, David. I'm very sorry. I wish I could make it better. But honestly, I don't think I can be the brother you need me to be anymore." I read the message a few times before setting my phone down. Part of me wanted to respond, but the rest didn't know what to say. What was that all about? Was it like an apology or more of a farewell? I got up and strolled to the window, looking at the quiet street below. There had not been a time in recent memory when I did not know what lay ahead for us. But one thing was sure, I could not return to how things used to be. The door to my past had closed, but what would lie beyond it? To be continued.